Metro Talk. I'm Kent Shuffle. Thanks for being with us. Jim Schrader, the publisher of the Telegraph, is here. Welcome, Jim.
Hi, Kent.
And Pat Gowan, one of the editors of the Post-Dispatch, is alongside. Welcome, Pat.
Hi, Kent.
Pat, Federal Appeals Court has struck down the state's ban on carrying concealed weapons. They've given lawmakers 180 days to make a change. Is this finally going to be the time when we see concealed carry laws get approved in Illinois?
Well, yeah, it doesn't matter whether they approve the law or not, because as long as that appellate court decision stands, and that is a binding decision, if the legislature does nothing, then you will be able to carry a firearm without a permit. You'll need to have the firearm owner identification card. That remained untouched by the legal decision, but so the legislature, if they're going to have any control of it, there are really only two ways they can control it, and they'll probably do both. And they say they don't file the appeal, but presumably the Attorney General's office will appeal. And if they get a stay on that when they appeal, then that might delay the whole shebang, and it won't so much matter what the legislature does till this goes to the next level of court, which presumably would be the full Seventh Circuit. This was a decision by a three-member panel of the Seventh Circuit. That's very common. Sometimes they'll accept an appeal to the full Seventh Circuit, and then if the state loses there, or whichever side loses there, they're out to appeal to the Supreme Court. They don't necessarily have a guarantee of having the Supreme Court hear it, but they can at least try. So that's one direction it could go. It could get bogged down in the courts quite a bit still. Presuming it doesn't, if there's not a stay, then the legislature really has 180 days to act. If they don't have the law in place by June, then we'll just have any kind of carry until such time as there is a law. One state, I believe it's Vermont, has no concealed carry permit and no law against carrying a gun. So Illinois wouldn't be the only state in that situation, but I don't think, given the strong anti-gun sentiment that's prevalent, especially in the Chicago area of Illinois, that would be an ideal situation for the politicians, and I don't think they can avoid doing something. Then the question becomes, what will they do? The big demarcation in concealed carry are shall issue states and may issue states. In a shall issue state, if I meet the qualifications set forth in the law, then I get the permit. In a may issue state, if I meet the qualifications set forth by law, there's still discretion on the part of the issuing authority, maybe the county sheriff or the local chief of police, as to whether I'm allowed to have one. And they can set standards. They can say, well, you carry jewels as part of your living, so therefore you're at higher risk of being robbed, so you ought to have a gun. Or, well, gosh, you're a newspaper reporter. A newspaper reporter doesn't need a gun, so no, you don't get one. There are some may issue states, Hawaii is notable among them, but some areas of California as well, where there are very seldom, if ever, permits issued. It's a may issue state. They just kind of pretty much choose not to. So for those who rejoice in the idea that Illinois will have concealed carry permits, depending upon how the legislation is drawn, it could be very narrow, and it's possible that very few of the people who would want the permits might ever get them. Or not. Maybe it'll be wide open, because some of them are so open, like Missouri. Missouri's so open that if you would otherwise qualify for a permit, that is, you have no criminal or mental health record, even without the training that's required for a concealed carry permit, without the permit, you can carry a loaded gun in your car, as long as you stay in Missouri and you meet the other qualifications of the permit. That's pretty wide open. Maybe Illinois will have that. These are the things that are going to be debated over the next 6 months.
The lines in Illinois on the issue have been pretty well drawn in the past. Will the shootings in Connecticut have any impact on this?
I wonder. Yes, no. I mean, the Connecticut shootings were, now we know, done with an AR-15 rifle rather than the handguns he carried, but they could just as easily have been carried out by the handguns that he carried. He wasn't a concealed permit holder. I don't think he was even old enough to qualify for a concealed carry permit. So it wasn't, the guns weren't held legally. He was committing a crime. The Supreme Court has ruled that you have a right to have firearms, handguns in your homes. This appellate court decision takes it a step further, saying you have a right to carry them beyond that. That seems to be the directions the courts are going. I don't think that's going to reverse. So you're not going to see a debate about AR-15s or whether you ought to have military-type assault weapons, because the concealed carry law, the decision, not law, but the concealed carry decision by the Seventh Circuit doesn't really have anything to do with that. It has to do with concealed carry of handguns. And I think it'll be pretty narrowly drawn like that. So the effect of the shootings in Connecticut certainly don't help those who would like to see concealed carry in Illinois, but the decision has been made. So will those shootings make Illinois a may issue state where it might otherwise have been a shall issue state? That's something for the political arena to decide, something we'll see over the next 6 months.
Jim, the appellate court has ruled that the state has 180 days to make some decisions on concealed carry legislation. Will lawmakers enact concealed carry now?
Well, they have to do something. What they can't do is just sit there and do nothing, because as Pat points out, then it goes into effect regardless. Attorney General Lisa Madigan could file an appeal, take it back to court, as Pat points out, and see what transpires there. I think that the state is still going to be hard pressed to keep the no concealed carry of any kind in place when you have 49 other states. As the district court just pointed out, we got laws in 49 states that allow some form, under some circumstances, of concealed carry. Illinois being the only that doesn't allow it. End of conversation. If Lisa Madigan appeals it, we'll tie it back up in court for a while. Though I think if you look at what the court said here, it's going to be hard pressed to just keep that door closed. I think the door is now open. So now the legislature has to get together and say, okay, we're stuck with this of some kind. What's the best way to do this? I think if you drew a line at possibly I-80, the legislators I-80 and north are going to say, we don't want concealed carry of any kind, or we're going to highly restrict it. May issue, as Pat pointed out, like they have in California and other states. We may issue one, but you're really going to have to demonstrate. To the south of I-80, which becomes a lot more rural and many times a lot more conservative, either Democrat or Republican, you see more of the philosophy that this is a right. I have a right to protect my property. I have a right to protect my home. I have a right to protect my family, my car, whatever. And they're going to push more for the shall issue. The question will be is whether or not it's tied up in court. So you go back to the legal battle there, which is just going to forestall the decision, or are we going to see very tight restrictions? And I think what we're probably going to see is, since we have to talk about a statewide concealed carry law, my guess is they're going to push for a May issue, because that's what the legislators north of that I-80 are going to say, that's the only way we can live with this, because we don't want the Wild West here. As we've talked about on this show before, these types of laws would not necessarily have changed anything that happened in Newtown, Connecticut. The hardliners might say, well, if the teachers had been armed, or if the principal had been armed, or if the janitor had been armed, at the first sign of trouble, they could have gone into action, and that's certainly a possibility. But we'll never Monday morning quarterback the sickness of this Adam Lanza and what it caused him to do in Newtown, Connecticut. Concealed carry laws would not have changed that one bit. We're just going to have to see what shakes out here. I think Lisa Madigan is probably best served by letting this go and then just trying to come through with legislation that will appease both sides of the discussion.
If a man driving by the school in Newtown last week with a concealed carry permit had seen this man with these weapons walking into the school, confronted him, stopped him, shot him, whatever he took, would there be a bigger hero in the United States today than the guy who had the gun and stopped this man with all his ammunition and all these weapons from killing those children? I mean, this thing in the debate sort of cuts both ways. It's highly unlikely, but it does cut that way too, if you want to argue it.
Though there have been cases where an armed citizen with the proper permitting has stopped crimes or has stopped, death and destruction because they happen to be there and licensed to carry a firearm.
To the best of my knowledge, no one with a concealed carry permit's ever gone on a shooting spree.
None that I've been aware of.
I'm unaware of that anyway.
We need to take a break. We have more Metro Talk coming up in a moment.
Hi, I'm Audrey Lucchese, and I'm from Alton, Illinois. I love music, and that's why I came to Lewis and Clark. It's been an amazing experience here at Lewis and Clark, working with students that are so talented, coming from all over the area, and they work so hard to follow their dreams. The music faculty at Lewis and Clark they're fantastic, and they're there every step of the way to push you to follow your dreams. One of the unique opportunities that I have had at Lewis and Clark is being able to record my own music with a fellow student here. Being able to record our music has opened doors for us in the music industry. My long-term goal is to finish here at Lewis and Clark and then to transfer to a four-year school and finish my degree in music performance. I would recommend Lewis and Clark to another student because it is definitely a great place to get started and it can open so many doors for you.
Up, college is hard. Down, those books are heavy.
My sport is football, but my passion is education.
Right up here.
So every year I take promising high schoolers on a college tour
And lights there, darks there.
to show them that higher education means a brighter future. My name is Nnamdi Asamoah. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Find out how you can live united for education. Give, advocate, volunteer. Go to liveunited.org.
Do you wear this?
This is Metro Talk. I'm Kent Shuffle. Pat Gowan and Jim Schrader here. Jim, we were talking about gun control right before the break. You happened to mention Lisa Madigan. The bottom line is the concealed carry issue creates a headache for her from the standpoint that if she appeals a recent court ruling that is going to require the state to do something, she could upset the people north of I-80, as you said. If she moves the wrong way, she could upset the people south of I-80. What do you do if you're Lisa Madigan? Do you fight this? Do you let it go? How do you respond?
Well, such is the case of an attorney general, where you're sworn to uphold the laws as they are in place. She could appeal this and make some people happy that basically that she forestalled the inevitable here. But I think the legislation is going to happen in some way, shape, or form. I would say that she'd be better served to work with the legislature and try to work with them to draft a law that is going to be as palatable as it can possibly be to all. Unless I just missed my guess, if this is appealed, it will be upheld. That's what's happened in other states, and if it goes to the Supreme Court, it will probably be upheld because that's what's happened in other states as well. To try to get legislation that says, yes, it's okay for one state out of 50 to not allow any type of concealed carry, I don't see that happening. I think she'd be better off to say, I worked hard and long to make this as restrictive as possible. I have to do what basically the courts have said that we as a state have to do, but I'm going to do everything in my power to make it hard for anybody to walk around with a gun.
Pat, if you're Illinois Attorney General Lisa Madigan, what do you do here? Do you appeal the court's ruling? Do you not appeal the court's ruling on concealed carry? What steps do you take to survive politically and do what's right for Illinois?
Let's look at politically and legally. Politically, the assumption is that Lisa Madigan wants to be governor, and that she might take on Pat Quinn in the primary and try to get the nomination for governor next time. I think a lot of people believe that's the case. If she does that, she'll alienate a lot of people downstate if she appeals this. But at some point as a candidate for governor, she's going to have to articulate her position about firearms and concealed carry anyway. She's going to have to out herself one way or another. She's going to alienate somebody if she does it. I don't want to put words in her mouth. My guess is because her father has never been a particular friend of concealed carry legislation in in the House, as the longtime Speaker of the House, I'm guessing that she might feel the same way. And she's from Chicago, and she's Attorney General. My guess is that she's probably against concealed carry, but I don't really know. But I think she'll have to reveal herself politically. That might just take care of itself. Before there is an election, there will be a forum in which she will have to explain her views. So maybe what she does here now doesn't matter quite so much politically. Legally, she's already in it. This is not the entry point for the Attorney General. The state of Illinois, the Attorney General's office, defended the lawsuit that came to the district court to begin with. These people, two people, one of them the church treasurer from Anna, Illinois, who'd been beaten almost to death in a holdup in her church, and who held a concealed carry permit in 2 other states where she lived, but of course not in Illinois because she wasn't permitted to have one. She was one of the 2 plaintiffs. They filed a lawsuit, and filed 2 separate lawsuits, and they lost their suits at the district court level. The state had opposed it. They sued the state saying this law is not proper, it's not constitutional. The state defended the law and won. And trial judges in both cases, Bill Steele and East St. Louis being one of them, found against the lawsuit. And then they were consolidated for purposes of appeal, and a panel of the 7th Circuit said, no, the trial judges were wrong, they are unconstitutional. So Madigan has already fought it to this point. I don't know why she wouldn't continue to fight it through to appeal. And if I were her, I think what I would say is, I'm the law enforcement chief of Illinois, I've defended the law, my job is to defend the law, I'm going to continue to defend the law. If the legislature wants to pass a concealed carry law, that would be entirely appropriate. I'm not in the legislature anymore. I don't care what they do. Let them do what they might. If I appeal it and the courts find that the 7th Circuit panel was correct and concealed carry remains the law in Illinois too, I will accept that, but I'm going to do my job and carry it up the line. So I don't know that this is as fraught with peril as some pundits think it is. And again, mainly because before she even runs in a primary election against Quinn, she's going to have to come out and say one way or another how she feels about this, and that will ring as loudly as anything she does in court.
Jim, the president of the Illinois Rifle Association has said that teachers, principals should be allowed to carry weapons to protect against things like the Connecticut shootings. Should we have school administrators, faculty in the schools in Illinois be able to carry guns?
There's a great question for which there's real no good answer. Would things have changed in Newtown, Connecticut this week if the janitor or the principal or one of these teachers was carrying a firearm? Yes, inasmuch that they were qualified to, and able to use that weapon, it might have been different. Just for any person to be walking the halls of the Sandy Hook grade school with a weapon doesn't mean that they are very proficient at utilizing that weapon, that they've been trained, as highly as one would need to be to operate in a panic situation. I mean, as we've talked about many times here before, even law enforcement, when they're involved in a shooting, which, thank God, most officers go through their entire career and are never involved in a shooting, but even when they are, that is a very difficult task. Officer-involved shootings, the adrenaline is pumping, their minds are going a mile a minute, the muscle memory is what teaches them to shoot and shoot accurately. But even at that, we've all heard stories where 30 rounds were shot and nobody was hit because of all of the things that are going through. So just the fact that those teachers were armed by and of itself might not have changed anything. Would Adam Lanza have been less inclined to enter that school with an AR-15 and 2 pistols if he knew that administrators in the school were also armed? You can make the point yes, you can make the point no. My point would be a sick individual like that who ultimately was planning on dying that day wouldn't care one way or the other. Might there have only been 20 people killed instead of 26 if those teachers were armed? Maybe. We don't know. We can never answer that question. But just to say that all teachers, by position, you are a teacher, therefore you should carry a gun to school, that just flies in the face of good logic. would I be bothered by or certain people in that school carrying a defensive weapon so trained to use it? I could support that.
Pat, the head of the Illinois Rifle Association, says that we need to allow principals, faculty members to carry weapons in the schools. Should we have armed individuals in Illinois schools?
You know, Tim Fitch, who I know very well, the chief of the St. Louis County Police, said the same thing this week and caused a collective gasp, I think, among a lot of his colleagues and people in education. The mind swims with the possibilities. I mean, so you have a trained person in the school, is he or she going to carry the gun to class, or is there going to be a lockbox in the office where you've got to run to get it? Has anybody thought through, so the police arrive and there's somebody in civilian clothes shooting up the school, and you encounter somebody in civilian clothes with a weapon, and it turns out to be the good guy? There are liability issues. In a limited circumstance, maybe this would save the day, but by and large, I guess it'll probably never happen. It seems to me the more reasonable approach we're going to do that is assign a school resource officer to every school, have a police officer in every school, or hire a retired police officer as a monitor to be armed in the school. That might be the best solution of all, but I think the armed teacher administrator thing is fraught with peril.
We need to take another break. We've got more coming up.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lewis and Clark Minute. Today we're going to be talking with Michelle Singley about the dental hygiene program.
Dental hygiene students learn a variety of treatment skills when they're enrolled in the program at Lewis and Clark. For example, students learn to take a thorough medical history, to perform a head and neck assessment, including an oral cancer screening, and to assess the gum tissue, teeth, and bone of their patients. The students also take dental x-rays, perform dental cleanings, place dental sealants to prevent cavities, and treat the patient's teeth with fluoride or fluoride varnish. Dental hygiene students also teach others to take good care of their teeth with oral hygiene aids such as brush and floss. Our Gina the giraffe puppet is one of the students' favorites. We take her out to the schools to teach the kids good oral habits. For more information about the dental hygiene program, call us at 468-4413 and you can meet Gina.
This has been your Lewis and Clark Minute.
Lead paint poisoning affects 1 million children today. If you're pregnant or have young children and your home was built before 1978, you could be at risk. Learn how to protect your family. To find your home's danger zones, the health effects, or just to find help, log on to leadfreekids.org.
Bring out the action hero in you. Fuel up right and get energized. Be part of the greatest action movie ever. The first movie that puts you in the action. Show us how you train and eat like an action hero. Join in at actionheroalliance.com.
You're watching Metro Talk. I'm Kent Scheffel. Pat Gowan and Jim Schrader are alongside. Pat, the South Rock Santa man is suing the Wanda Cemetery. The gentleman wanted a flagpole on a grave site that he owns. The cemetery said no. Should he be allowed to have that flagpole on a grave site that he has?
This is a very nuanced case, and it's not all the way through the courts yet. There have been some back and forth about injunctions and such. I guess it may be an interesting analysis of exactly what your rights are when you buy a burial plot. And I believe, if I remember right, this gentleman has, I wrote it down, is it like 21 burial plots in one cemetery. So he's a major landowner there. The cemetery has rules. I guess they say he's violated the rules. He says you never enforce the rules, which may be true too, and if you don't enforce them, can you suddenly start enforcing them? So I think it may be an interesting case to watch from a legal standpoint. I can imagine why in a cemetery where the appearance is somewhat regulated, that having a flagpole in the middle of it all might be kind of a jarring thing. On the other hand, this is sort of America where individualism reigns. It's kind of hard to argue with somebody who wants to fly a flag, so this will be interesting to watch.
Jim, Wanda Cemetery has said to a man, no, you cannot put a flagpole on a grave site you own. That's resulting in a court case. Should he be allowed to have that flagpole?
Well, I think this gentleman's point is he has a property deed for each of these plots, and I think you're right, it's like 21. And it says that, basically, I guess in the description of the plot, there's a certain perimeter around the actual burial site itself, and I think it's 12 inches around where the actual headstone and the burial vault would be. And his point is, if I have a property deed for that property, then it's my private property that I bought and paid for. I ought to be able to put on it what I want to. And the only restrictions are it's 12 inches from the headstone or whatever. And as he pointed out, in the past there have been flagpoles and other things, and nothing was ever said. The question will be is whether or not the courts can say, well, wait a minute, the overall property belongs to the Wanda Cemetery, and you just bought the ability to bury your loved one in this place of ground, and you really don't own the property completely. I guess then you get into a point, if you really own the property completely, do you then own the mineral rights to that property below? I mean, if you want to get into the silliness here, one could make that point. Well, if that's my 8 foot by 10 foot spot, then I have the property rights all the way to the center of the earth, which of course it's not meant to be. I see his point, and when you start dealing with restricting a flagpole for an American flag, which is what this person wants to do, then you get the emotional response to all of this. I suspect that the Wanda Cemetery has probably learned a lot from this, and from going forward, if there are any lots that are still available, I suspect that those property rights will be spelled out very, very carefully. It's going to be interesting to see how this one plots out. It's the first controversy I've ever heard of the Wanda Cemetery. The church has been there since the 1800s. It was originally established for the families of the Methodist Church down there. It's going to be interesting to see how all this plots out. But if the property deed is not restrictive, it's going to be interesting to see which way the courts come down.
Pat, Madison County judge has refused to reopen a $10 billion case involving cigarette maker Philip Morris. Have we heard the last of this case now?
I don't know whether we have or not. We may have. This case was filed in 2000. This is one where Judge Nick Byron awarded people $10.1 billion under claim that cigarettes were misrepresented in their safety. Then the Supreme Court held, no, it was okay. The Fed said they could advertise it that way. Then there was an appeal saying no. Another case said they couldn't. Now the judge has thrown it out. I may not live long enough to see the end of this case.
$10 billion is a lot of money. Both sides are not done arguing yet.
That's going to do it for this round of Metro Talk. Thanks for being with us. I'm Kent Scheffel. Pat Gowan and Jim Schrader have been here. We'll see you next time.